he's saying, give what you are using. In other words, you got to replace something for God. If you don't, if you are going to give time to God, that's time that you would have been doing something else. You have to sacrifice that time in front of the television, or sacrifice that time doing that other thing so you can give it to God. Then it's worth something. You would not accept leftovers. He would not accept leftovers to build a tent of meeting. That's it. You wonder, what if God was that way with us? And he said, well, excuse me, I don't have time for you now. You're ready to worship him, and we take it for granted that he's going to be there. He doesn't have to be there, but he is there, but we need to put him the same way. We expect God to meet us at his whim, and yet with our schedule to revolve around us. That's not how he showed up in glory. And I'm not saying God's grace is with us, and God will love you no matter what, but if you want the glory and the greatest of God, you have to give him your best. One of the signs that your life is revolving around God is that you revolve your schedule around God, not the other way around. You give the best. What's the tithe? The tithe is not the last part, it's the first part. You give the best part of your time, the best part of your devotion, the best part of your attention. Full attention. It's so hard. It's almost like the enemy is, I believe is in this in the end times, to take everybody's attention so scattered. You're talking to people now, and you have to make sure they're not plugged into everything else in the world. I've been on talk shows where in the break, the hosts are checking out everything there. Well, that we're so plugged into the world that that it's hard to be plugged into God. We have to put things aside. You ever look at how many details are involved in the tabernacle? I get, sometimes I don't know if you get something in the mail. You order something and you still have the illusion that it's going to come to you together. And it's come to you in all these pieces, and you have to follow the directions and put everything together. I just don't want to deal with that. And being Jewish, this is not our strength. Mechanical things are not our strength. Growing up, I had friends who had Lego sets, and they're building like these Lego rocket ships and Lego space stations and nuclear power plants, Lego. And being Jewish, you had a Lego kit. You had some friends. You go out, you got an estimate, and you contracted the work. We had Lincoln Logs. Got to be nothing more simple than Lincoln Logs. Anybody have Lincoln Logs? You remember that? Simple, we get an allowance money, get a friend. Listen, you do it, you build it, you'll get paid, nobody will know, Everybody's happy, we had it done, But when you build something, for those, you have to be exact about it. There are exact blueprints. To do this, it's almost like every inch here is measured on a blueprint. Every inch, everything has to be according to code and all that, And you need people who are exact, who are exact about that. We've had Sam, and by the way, keep him in prayer. It was a miracle that he's doing, that he's alive, a miracle, but he still needs a lot of prayer. So keep it, he's still in there. But, and he, so there's Sam, there's an eye on that. I remember one day he was walking around and he said, I know something's not right. He's bothered by something. So something's not right. He's saying, I don't know, there's something not right, and I don't know what it is. And it turns out he was wearing his right foot on his left shoe on his right foot. I said, you're the one in charge of every detail here, and you didn't know you had your feet on the wrong shoe. But the thing is that miraculously, everything is in its place. Well, God required the tabernacle to be exactly everything in its place. Everything. And the thing is that if you build carelessly, if the Israelites built it carelessly, God would never show up. If they made a wreck of it, they couldn't care less. So sometimes you wonder, you say, sometimes how come I don't feel the presence of God? Well, how much are you putting into your prayer life? And the question is not that you do, so God does. But it does mean something. God does require us to prepare a place for him and give him the best. It says, love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And God will bless that. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. It had to be precise. How much, if you're careless with your prayer life, what do you expect from God? It's like anything. If you're careless with your marriage, you don't put anything into it, what do you expect out of it? He required it to be exactly precise. Think about how much we put into so much things in our life. How many projects in our work, in our jobs, in our education, some of you. How much thought when you have a planning energy do we put into projects? And how much do we put into our prayer life? I mean, how much do we put into becoming a holier person in God, a more righteous walk? How much do we put into it? Think about all the thought and planning, and how much planning do we put into God? How much do we really take seriously? Hey, I want my prayer life to be the best it can be, and I'm planning for this now. I'm gonna move forward. I want to draw closer. How much do we do? We spend hours on other things, hours about learning other things. How many hours do we spend to draw closer to God? How much would God bless that? How much more blessed would we be if we did that? The first thing he calls them to do is build. You're building something. You know, your prayer life is to be something you build. God's presence is all his. But we're part of the building. Your prayer life, your communion with God, you're to be building it, getting stronger, having a goal. I want to get stronger in God. I want to get closer in his presence. I want more of God. I want to be filled with God in everything I do. If you put the same kind of care you put into other projects in your life, you apply that excellence, that thought to your communion with God, that tent of God would be filled with the presence of God. If you take the ambition you would have in the world for careers and purpose and making money and apply it to the realm of the Spirit, which is real treasure that doesn't fade away, how much excellence, what would God do? How much that would transform your life? To each day hey, I want to explore more about God. I want to go more in the Spirit. Each day to seek higher ground. What would God do? How great it would affect everything in your life. Everything. You know, the Lord didn't say don't have ambition. You know, he said, you who would be the greatest among you, you become the servant of all. In other words, he's saying, listen, you have ambition to become great. You have ambition in the world. Take that ambition and put it into God. Put it to be the greatest, most humble person you can be. What would happen to your devotional life if you spent the same time and energy as you do in other things? It would be transformed. Now notice something. The tent that would be